yard sail is basically a fly that works for anything that eats another fish. And I've tied this fly from 2 inches up to like around 10 inches and have caught, I couldn't say how many species of fish from musky, lake trout, brown trout, largemouth, smallmouth. I've caught bluegills on the smaller versions, crappie. I've had guys that love using them for stripers, tarpon, seen really big carp caught on them, anything that will eat another smaller fish. The versatility of the fly is not just the size you can tie it in, but how you can fish it and the ways you can change the fly from adding more weight to adding foam and changing the buoyancy. You can fish this fly super, super slow. I'm Matt Grajewski. I'm from Michigan. I currently live in Grand Rapids. It's always easiest to tell people I was raised on a lake in the woods as a family of 6 that hunted and fished all the time. We were always outdoors, but grew up in St. Clair Shores, just a few blocks from Lake St. Clair. So spent a lot of time out there learning to fish, and moved to Grand Rapids for college, and kind of stayed ever since and fished all over the state, from the southern end to the far western end of the UP. To me, the biggest benefit of the yard sail is that it turns and it shows a side profile. So any fish that eats another fish is going to have that predatory instinct that's just going to kick in. Something's wounded, something needs to be taken out, something's an easy meal. So this fly, by the way that you can really pause it and let it sit there, and then you can take it away, and depending on the fly, the smaller ones are easier to manipulate than the bigger ones, but a fly this size or even a little bigger, I can hardly just give a good quick strip and that fly just turns, and a lot of times that will do it. Or it takes 2 or 3, like if that doesn't work, comes up to it, doesn't eat, I pop it 2 or 3 times again real quick and it does this, then it's usually game over if they're gonna eat it. So the way that you can make this look like a dying or wounded fish, even when it sinks, depending on the line you're using, it will often have a very slow sink, which is very realistic. More dead fish sink than float. We see the floaters, so we think dead fish always float, but more of them sink. That's why a jig is maybe the best bait ever invented, because it falls. And you can weight this to where it just sits there, like maybe I'm a little bit wounded, maybe I'm not quite there yet, or I'm starting to fall. And sometimes they'll eat it, smallmouth, I've let this fly dead, they'll follow it and let it dead drift for 3-4 feet, before they decide to eat it. I don't have to move it, or I twitch it once. And that's when they decide I got to make a decision. So it really comes down to a lot of the flies I tie and how I enjoy fishing is how do I make fish make bad decisions. Like rigging for the fly is really pretty easy, because the way you're fishing the fly, the fish aren't really studying that fly, they're reacting to it. So a lot of times like this, on an intermediate line, sometimes I'll go a little bit longer. I feel like this leader is probably close to 6 feet. Maybe a little bit less. Like this is by far as long as I will go, and this is super simple. This is like 20 to 15 to 12. A lot of times on a sinking line, I'll just go like 20 to 15, and that whole leader will be maybe 4 feet long at the longest. Musky, a lot of times like I'll go even shorter. I think I have, yeah. Especially depending on the fishery. So this is probably like 35 or 40 pound maxima, maybe 30 inches to about a foot of wire. Like sometimes I'll go a little bit longer on the wire. And this is, I won't even say necessarily on the shorter end, but this was set up fishing a river. I need the fly to I don't want the fly to, it's not that it has to get down quickly. I just don't want it when you're making only 40-foot casts. I don't want the retrieve to just go like this, right? So I want it to be able to take that fly down. If I make this leader too long, that fly is going to ride up. Before, if I'm fishing maybe a really clear lake, even then a lot of times I don't go longer. Muskies are not leader shy. I've seen muskies attached to a crappie on a chain link stringer. If they want to eat, they will eat, and they're so focused on the fly. I have a good friend of mine, Gear Buddy, who uses piano wire for his leaders on 120-pound white braid. So he can always track his fly and know where it is. The muskies do not care. Now people may have, I don't know if it's whether I think it's pressure, I fish pressured fisheries, or really clear water that want to run longer leaders, whatever works for them. The leader length, I'll go as short as I can possibly go to get the action out of the fly I want. If I make this leader shorter, there's a softness to the fly needs a pause, and that comes like, you don't always have to fish slow and pause your movement, but for musky a lot of times I'm moving that fly with both hands, so I'm moving the fly roughly 30 inches or so each time. The pause is my hands coming back together. I'll fish like this, and people say, you fish faster than I thought, because my body's moving the whole time. But if you watch the fly, you have to allow it to turn. So this leader, when I pull, the leader is going to put some slack in it, right? More so than the fly line will. So if I go too short here, it doesn't allow the fly. People talk about a fly turning or kicking. I like to refer to as that fly has to travel. It doesn't, I don't want it to just do this. Like if I could draw a line with the tracer, my fly turned, but it just come back to the boat like this, especially with musky, I need it to travel. It's got to be taken away from the fish. So I need that fly to travel. So that's where the length of the leader is literally just about action. I always like tell this story. I remember one time Eric, to prove a point when he was trying to convince people not to use fluorocarbon as a leader for musky, because anything under, I think it's 120 pounds, some guys claim 150, that a musky can't break, which if you ever tied a fly to 120 pound fluorocarbon, does not swim very well. He tied wire directly to his fly line and caught a musky. When they want to eat, they do not care. So it really comes down to action. So that's my typical setup for musky. My fishing these days has kind of evolved to how I catch fish and not so much whether I catch fish. It's not that I'm not trying to catch fish, but I will choose to catch fewer fish to catch them the way that I want. And that's a lot of like the flies and how I tie them. They're not like patterns where you can't catch a lot of fish, but if you want to catch them in certain ways, like it gives you that ability. And the bite, it wasn't this way when I was younger, right? Like we all kind of go from like how many fish can we catch and then maybe the size of fish. And like for me nowadays, it's really the bite. Landing that fish outside, unless it's a really good musky, I'm not sure that there's a fish that I could lose that I would really be heartbroken about. It'd be like, oh, did you see that eat? That was sick, you know, that was cool. Like, it came off, whatever, you know, and it's got to the point where that's just what I want to do. But then I'll also go the complete different direction and take out my 7-year-old and we'll go catch bluegills for 3 hours and I'll have a blast. So it's like, it almost could vary from day to day, but if I'm gonna go out fly fish and I'm gonna go out by myself or with some buddies or my brothers, it is like how I'm gonna catch that fish. That's really, I'll take one eat that was the way I wanted it over catching 30 fish.